Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our District 4 meeting. I'm honored that you're all here. Let me first introduce my field rep, Noreen Sullivan. Noreen, she's the one that's way back there. Noreen and I wish you the best, and hopefully that you're doing very well and keeping yourselves safe. Speaking about keeping yourselves safe, COVID-19 is still on our minds. So yesterday I contacted Manuel Carmona, Pasadena's interim public health director, to see how we're doing in Pasadena. He says that we're doing well, but as you know, we have other variants that are still lingering. My question to Manuel was this: what's our COVID vaccination rate in Pasadena? His answer was, since April 5th, 2022, 99.9% of Pasadena residents has had at least one dose, and 93.3% of our residents are fully vaccinated. We should be very grateful that our health department is constantly and consistently educating us and informing us about the importance of being vaccinated. So residents, I want to say thank you for being part of the solution and not part of the problem. So we'll be back to normal someday. As I say that, LA County tells us COVID has been rising lately. And if the rate rises above 100 cases per 100,000 residents, then they will strongly recommend using masks indoors. Recommend, so not required. So stay vigilant. Some housekeeping items. If our restrooms are right out this door and just make a right, it's just about right here on the other side of this wall. Please turn off your telephones. And please sign up for our newsletter. And all you have to do is Google Pasadena District 4 and ask for our newsletter to put your email on our list. I have a special thank you for District 4 commissioners for their time, their experience, and their commitment to Pasadena. Are there any commissioners here today? Say your name and what commission you're on. Okay, can't hear you, but okay, great. Okay, who else is here? Back here, Julie Valente. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for their work. I want to thank the media department. I want to thank the media department for being here and helping out with our meeting tonight. We actually had IT here as well, so they are no longer here because we're not going to do the PowerPoint. We have some wonderful speakers tonight with important topics. And we also have other staff here during the Q&A, so they'll be here to answer questions. My job will be to be the timekeeper. Our speakers tonight are City Manager Miguel Márquez, Acting Director of Planning, Jennifer Paige, Director of Public Works, Tony Olmos, and Director of Transportation, Laura Conejo. We will have questions and answers after, and we'll have other city staff join in if needed, like the police department. And I think that's it. We're ready to move forward. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our city manager, Miguel Márquez.
So hello, everybody. Good evening. I keep being introduced as your new city manager, and I wonder how long I can get away with that. But I will be very precise to tell you I have now completed 11 weeks, 3 days, 11 hours, and 16 minutes since Tony and I had a meeting this morning at 7:30 with all of his team. So I think someone told me I can be the new city manager for a year, so I'm going to claim it. I'm so happy to be here, so privileged to be with all of you today. Just want to go briefly over my background, just so you know who I am, because I do plan to be here for quite a while, so I look forward to being your city manager for years to come. You know, what I want you to remember about me is just sort of three main things, and I'll go into each one a little bit better, or a little bit more in depth. But number one, I am the son of immigrants to this country from Mexico, so I am first generation to this country. And my parents didn't have a lot of education, so I grew up poor, and we had to struggle and work really hard, but we made it. Two, I had the tremendous privilege of programs and efforts that were made for people like me that came from underprivileged means, and had a terrific sort of education starting at age 18, and also in high school and grammar school, but really had the privilege of going to some good schools. And finally, because of those two things, I decided to dedicate my career to public service. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So number one, as I said, my parents are from Mexico, from the state of Zacatecas, and my father came as a bracero. It's a labor program from the 1960s, and he came and actually was sent to Arizona to pick cotton. And he did that for a little while, but ultimately came up to Sacramento, brought my mom a little bit later, and I was born and raised in Sacramento. You know, we had a variety of different experiences, but one of them that I will always remember was when I was 4 years old, being admitted and going to Head Start. I don't know if you all remember Head Start, but it's a federal program for kids like myself who were growing up without language skills, still needing to learn English. Spanish was my first language. And it was a tremendous help when I got to kindergarten. So I went through the school system, so that's sort of how I grew up with all the things that come with that, living in a poor neighborhood, having to work minimum wage jobs, all that kind of stuff. But at age 18, I had the fortune of being admitted to Stanford University, terrific university in Palo Alto, California. And from that, you know, I thought I was grown at 18 and went to college, but I was a kid. Had a different experience, had a terrific experience at Stanford, had some experiences that I went in as an engineer because I love numbers, I love sort of analysis in that regard, but saw so many things that needed to be improved that I changed my major to public policy and graduated with the degree back in 1989 in public policy. And then went immediately to Harvard University and got a master's degree in public policy. That's how serious and how committed I was to it. And graduated from there. And then after that, went to law school and got my law degree from UC Berkeley. And if you're wondering, and anybody knows the rivalries, UC Berkeley, Stanford, they're on the opposite sides. It's your undergrad, so I go with Stanford. But you know, it's hard to root for anything now because they keep losing. After that, you know, I started working, actually it was interesting, I started working at a law firm that did high-tech work. I was a transactional lawyer doing securities, capitalizing companies in the high-tech space. And after doing that for about a year and a half, I thought to myself, this is really interesting. High-tech was taking off, I really loved it. But I thought to myself about the life experience I had, about the people that worked hard to make programs like Head Start, about the schools that took me under their wing and taught me how to be a success. And I decided there was nothing wrong with turning millionaires into billionaires, which is what I was doing in my work, but I really wanted to give back to community. So I went and worked for the county of San Mateo. And if you're familiar with counties basically are the safety net of society. And it was terrific. I loved doing the work for the county of San Mateo. From there, I went up to San Francisco and worked in City Hall as a deputy city attorney. I actually ended up becoming the general counsel of San Francisco Unified School District, so I have a lot of school and public education in my background. And then from there, I came down to Santa Clara County, which is, if you're familiar, it's Silicon Valley, essentially. And my first role with Santa Clara County was to serve as Chief Operating Officer. I'm sorry, that's not right. That was my second role. My first role was to be County Counsel, which is the Chief Legal Officer for the county. And I did that for about 4 years. And because of some of the work that we did, it wasn't my idea, but Governor Brown in his office came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, do you want to be a judge?" So I thought about it for a little bit, went through the process and became an Associate Justice on the 6th District Court of Appeal and did that work for about 4 years. It was fascinating, a lot of good work. As an Associate Justice, you get to make California law when you write published opinions. And so I had that tremendous opportunity, but ultimately decided I really love being a public servant in local government. So I returned, came back, and served as Chief Operating Officer for the county, and did that work for about 6 years. And then I saw this opportunity open up. I had always wanted to come to Southern California because I have a lot of extended family who live here. And I went through the process, and thankfully, Councilmember Masuda and his colleagues sought fit to name me the next city manager of Pasadena. So that's my background, but someone called it, to summarize it in a nutshell, going from Head Start to Harvard. And I think that really does kind of summarize what I've seen, at least in my career, and it kind of tells you what I care about. I've seen poverty, I've seen people struggle, I've seen people have a lot of success, and I know the role that local government can play and providing that bridge for people to get on the right path and succeed. I also know that all of that work can be done only when there's a foundation of a well-run local government, of a well-run city, of parks and recreation and programs and libraries and our police and our fire. Everything has to work top-notch. So that's my first and foremost goal to all of you, is to bring municipal services to be the best-run city in America. That's my goal. I have my team that helps me out every single day. I have an amazing city council and mayor who are incredibly wise as we discuss all of the issues that face us all as a community. And community, that's really where it's really all about. Why do we have those numbers of 99.9 and 93% on vaccination? It's because we have an incredible community. So I feel blessed to be in this role. I pledge to do my very best to make this the best run city in all of the United States. Or if I'm gonna go, as the mayor always talks about, the best run city in all of the universe. So with that, that's who I am, and at the appropriate time, I'd be happy to take any questions, but I think we have a presentation from a number of people on my staff, and I think the first is gonna be our Acting Director of Planning, Jennifer Paige, who's gonna make a presentation. Let's give a warm round of applause for Jennifer.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Miguel's a hard act to follow. My name is Jennifer Paige. I'm the Acting Director of the Planning Department, and I've been with the city for 22 years, which may seem like a long time, but in the city of Pasadena, I'm just starting to now get some respect from coworkers for maybe having a little bit of longevity. So we have a lot of staff that have been here 25, 30 years. It just goes to show that it's a wonderful place to work and live, and we're very proud of the work that we do, and we hope that we make the city better for you every day. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's nice to see everybody here in person. I'm going to give you just a few updates of things that are going on in the planning department. One thing that I wanted to announce that affects everybody citywide outside of District 4 is that we're excited to announce that we have our e-permitting system up and running. So all the functions that are in the permit center, you can basically now do online through the computer. So you can get your permits online, you can make payments online, you can schedule building inspections, you can check permit history on a property, you can look up the development activity that's going on in your neighborhood. All of that is now available online. I think COVID forced us to take a lot of our operations that were being done in paper and to make it available online, and so we're able to do that now. So I think that's a service that hopefully you all take advantage of, and if you have any questions about that afterwards, I'm happy to leave you my information and we can give you some links to that, that information online. In terms of some specific District 4 projects, some recent large tenant improvements that are going to be starting or are underway. The first that I'm excited to announce is the GM Studio, which is at Sierra Madre Villa and Rosemead. This is a $71 million investment project by GM. It's for an advanced design center and operations. It's a research and development facility. They're going to be employing up to 100 employees with some high-tech jobs. They're going to be taking over 3 existing buildings and doing some tenant improvements there. So they're just getting ready to pull their building permits and they'll begin construction and hopefully move in next year. Zencor is another company that we're happy to bring to Pasadena at 465 North Halsted. That's an R&D, another research and development company that specializes in developing treatments for cancer and autoimmune disease. And they're taking over a 50,000 square foot facility and doing tenant improvements and relocating to Pasadena. Another place that you may have seen is Amazon Fresh. They've recently opened at 3425 East Colorado. That was the former Osh site, so that's another large tenant improvement. So we like to see when existing buildings are redeveloped and have new uses go in. So that's another new exciting use that's gone in. It opened in September if you haven't been over there to visit that yet. In terms of some updates on approved projects that you may have already heard of and you just might want to know where they're at in the process. The first is the Gateway Center, which is also known as where the Panda Inn restaurant is. That received their final design approval in March of this year. They've submitted for plan check for the parking structure, and they're going to be rebuilding the Panda Inn restaurant. So that phase is starting, and then there's a residential portion that's in the back of the site that they haven't pulled permits yet, but we're expecting that they'll be pulling permits on that fairly soon. Also, Space Bank, I know is a project that most of you are aware of. That project remains in litigation. I know we've had some people inquiring on that, so we're just waiting that out on the litigation. They do have entitlements good for 2 more years until August of 2024, so we're just waiting on that. Let's see, in terms of some other pending projects, there's a Rusnak Porsche dealership that was recently at the Planning Commission this summer that was continued. They're looking to build a new 60,000 square foot Porsche dealer on Colorado. That was continued, and they're looking at some redesign options, and we'll probably expect to see that back in the future. And I'm excited to announce that starting this spring, we're going to start back up with the East Pasadena specific plan and the Lamanda Park specific plan. So those are the plans that are specifically in District 4. We've been working on our citywide specific plan updates for a few years now. We've got 3 plans adopted, which is Lincoln Avenue, the East Colorado, and the South Fair Oaks specific plans. Our next plan will be Central District, followed by North Lake. And then we're going to launch into the plans for District 4. So keep an eye out for some outreach. We'll make sure that we push that through Noreen and Councilmember Masuda's office so that you'll know when we're having community meetings on those plans. Again, right now they're anticipated to begin in spring, and that again will be the East Pasadena and Lamanda Park specific plans. And I think that is all the updates that I had. I'm going to introduce Tony Olmos, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Jennifer. As Jennifer said, I'm Tony Olmos. I'm the Public Works Director. And the new title I just got rid of on November 1st, since I just completed 1 year with the city. So yeah, it does last 1 year. So before I came to Pasadena, I've been working in several Southern California cities. Some of the ones that I worked in within the last 30 years were the large cities were like Santa Ana, Huntington Beach, and the County of Orange. And I've also worked for a couple other smaller cities. So I've been around this business for a while, but it's just been, the last year has been really great here with the city. As the city manager said, there's terrific staff at every level, all the way up from the city council, the executives, and all the way down to all our staff that we work with on a daily basis. So that's my background, a little bit as to how I got here. And like Miguel, I plan on being here a lot longer, so I'm just really glad to be out with the community and sharing information. So in my department, Public Works, we have 5 main areas of responsibilities. We have the street maintenance. They take care of all the pavement, the sidewalk, all the street trees, and the storm drains and the sewers. We also have our refuse division that basically collects all the residential trash from everyone in the city. All the commercial industrial properties are done by commercial haulers. We also take care of all the buildings in the entire city, all the vehicles and all the equipment. We have our engineering division that puts together all these capital improvement projects that I'll give you some highlights on in just a second. And they also do all the permitting for all the work that takes place in the public streets. Then very importantly, and I want to keep on promoting this, within my department, we also have the Citizen Service Center, the CSC. You can access that by either calling 311, or if you go to the App Store, you can just type in Pasadena CSC and download it. That is the best way to basically put in service requests. So if you see a pothole, you see a sidewalk, you see a tree, maybe there's a branch hanging down, punch it right in, it'll mark the location, it'll generate a work order, and that's just the fastest, most efficient way for us to get service out to you. So that's what my department does. Just to give you some highlights on some things that have been occurring. One thing that we've been promoting and we're going to continue to promote is the organic recycling. January 1st of this year was the start date per the state mandate that we are to recycle our food waste along with our organic yard waste. So the rule is that you're supposed to bag your food waste in a plastic bag, put it in with your yard waste, and the waste process right now, that food waste goes over to Shoal Canyon in Glendale. It's a landfill transfer facility. They'll separate it out. They'll take the yard waste over to Puente Hills. Puente Hills will process it into, they call it like a bioslurry. Then that's taken to a wastewater treatment plant and is converted to bioenergy. It's a mandate. It is going to be a requirement that's going to be enforced starting in '24. But we don't want to come down with a lot of regulations. We want to work with the community, continue to share information, education. So you'll start hearing more and more as the year goes on. We just hired an outreach consultant to come up with a program that we're going to be sharing with all of you. So more to come on that for sure. The other high-profile thing that's going on in the city regarding my department is a central library. And I'm sure a lot of you heard that the central library closed some time ago. And the reason why it closed is that when we did an analysis for other reasons in terms of some of the components of the library, we found out that the structure itself, the walls are mostly masonry, brick, but they don't have steel through them, so they don't have reinforcement. So that raised a level of concern in terms of keeping it open. So the decision was made back then to close it. Now, what we've been working on since then, we've been working on getting a consultant on board, a design team on board that's going to basically prepare plans and specifications for doing a retrofit of the building. And per council direction, we also want, since the building's it's almost 100 years old, we want to make sure that it's going to last for another 100 years. So while we're doing this and taking our time on doing the design for the structure, there's also going to be a group that's going to be looking at what kinds of things can be upgraded in the library, what kinds of things can be done to modernize it in a way that it's able to serve the community in even a better fashion. So stay tuned. We are looking to go to City Council early next year for an award of contract for the design. And then as we get going, there's going to be a lot of outreach that's going to be done with the community as well to let you know what we're doing. And we always will welcome your input as we go forward with that. A few more updates. As you all know, the Rose Parade ends with the Post Parade out here near your area. Our crews have already started working on the prep work for the parade, doing a lot of tree trimming, patching pavement where necessary. So you'll probably see them working around here. And that's just a very exciting thing for our staff to work on for that. Regarding trees, as you know, we're in a multi-year drought, and and it's having an effect on our trees. We know that they're getting stressed and things like that. But besides the drought, we also have very high temperatures. Maybe it's climate change or what have you. But so to get on top of that, City Council had authorized some funds for us to be able to fund a study where we're having somebody actually take a look at our whole inventory, take a look at all those kinds of conditions, and give us recommendations in terms of what we need to do to better care for our tree inventory. So that's something we're working on. Hopefully we're going to finish that study early next year and have some recommendations to City Council on what to do there. Now, in some of the actual work taking place here that we've done from our capital program, if you've driven by Kinaloa recently between Colorado and Del Mar, we recently repaved that street. So it looks fantastic. We also did a decomposed granite sidewalk on the east side of Kinaloa between Green and Del Mar. And that's just an interim fix right now, since we are working with Edison right now to try to get them to dedicate some property so that we can have a full 6 foot wide sidewalk through there. That takes some time. Believe it or not, just to get 2 feet, it's going to take longer than a year to process, because it has to go through the Public Utilities Commission and other people that need to review it. But we're working real closely with the council office, with Noreen, on getting that process continue to go and get some positive results out of that. We also have our sidewalk contractor working out here and fixing some locations of sidewalk where we had some uplifts. So far, they've done 120 locations. There's 60 more to go. So we're really excited about that. We also recently completed, and there was a ribbon cutting with Councilmember Masuda and members of the community right near the Lamanda Park Library Pocket Park. So it was a new pocket park that was constructed with play equipment and shade structures and all sorts of things. And it came out fantastic, and we're really proud of that. We're also working on the Hamilton Park field improvements. So right now we're in the design phase, and there'll be some community outreach meetings coming here soon to get some input on what that might look like for some of those improvements. So that's pretty much what I have in terms of just some general updates. You know, once again, thank you very much for having me here. And just like the rest of us, we'll be available for questions after we all get a chance to give our updates. So with that, I'm going to introduce Ms. Laura Conejo. She's the Director of Transportation, and she'll be providing some updates as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I am Laura Conejo. I'm the Director of Transportation. I have been with the City of Pasadena for almost 3.5 years. Prior to joining the City of Pasadena, I worked for LA Metro for just over a decade. And this is actually my second kind of round at working for a municipal city, and I was really happy to be able to come back and work at the municipal level, where kind of the impact that we make is a little bit more immediate and you get to interact with constituents a lot more. So I'm happy to be here this evening. The Department of Transportation oversees a number of things, and the City of Pasadena is one of those rare cities where it does have its own standalone transportation department. In many other cities, it's kind of a division of the Public Works Department. But here in the city, it's its own department, and I like to say anything with wheels is within my department. So I am responsible for overseeing the operations of our Pasadena transit system, our dial-a-ride system. I also, within my department, is management and oversight of the city's parking network, both the garages and surface lots that the city owns, as well as the on-street parking. We do the traffic engineering, so the city has its own transportation management center, which is very rare for a city to have that. But we get to look at traffic in real time throughout our city, and if there are modifications that need to be made, we work really closely with our engineers in that transportation management center to make sure that our signals are synchronized and that traffic is flowing as smoothly as possible. We also do a lot of the planning and initial design work for transportation projects, and we work very closely with Tony's team as they are responsible for kind of the final design stages and the construction of those projects. But we do a lot of pedestrian improvements, bicycle improvements. We do a lot of design work for our streets and so on and so forth. So as Tony said, if ever there's a location or an idea you have or a concern, a street that you feel could be a little bit safer, you'd like to see a stop sign somewhere, the kind of chiming in through the CSC is really the best place. That gets routed to us. It gets tracked. We circle back to you and let you know what our recommendation is. So always happy to hear, because as much as we want to be responsive, we can't be everywhere at the same time. And so hearing from you all as to how we can improve our streets is a great benefit to us. With that said, I'll provide you a couple of updates that are specific to District 4. In recognition that Orange Grove needs to be a little bit safer for all users, we have included within our capital improvement project budget 3 locations for traffic signals, and we have 2 within District 4 that are moving forward. Anticipated to begin construction in the new year is a traffic signal at Orange Grove and Sunny Slope. Anticipate that it will be completed by fall of 2023. Second traffic signal within District 4 will be at Orange Grove and Craig. We received grant funding for that traffic signal. It will also include some curb extensions at that intersection to make it a little bit safer for pedestrians, as well as having the traffic signal itself provide, some traffic calming and make sure that as you cross that street, there is that signal there to allow for that. As I mentioned, we did receive grant funding for that, and so that traffic signal is in the design phase, and hopefully we can start working on getting that implemented in the very near future. In terms of bike projects, we also received grant funding for the Craig Greenway. And the Greenway is essentially, we implement a lot of traffic calming features that make a corridor or a street more friendly for pedestrians. It helps slow traffic down a little bit so that bicyclists and pedestrians also feel a little bit more comfortable riding their bikes and walking along that corridor. We last held a community meeting within District 4 back in May. We are in the process of taking all of the comments that we have received, refining some of that design of that corridor, and we hope to be back out with more community meetings in the near future, and we'll certainly work with Noreen in making sure we get word out for any future meetings. We do have, as part of the Greenways effort, an advisory group that is comprised of residents, business owners, as well as advocacy representatives. And I'm happy to share you have a very good representative within that advisory group for the Greenways that was identified by the council member. So you're well represented in terms of any comments and concerns, but obviously whenever we have larger community meetings, we want to see a good turnout and hear from everyone else directly. Lastly, I will share with you that we prepared a draft pedestrian action plan, and there are 3 corridors that are either partially or wholly within District 4. They are Foothill Boulevard between Walnut and Michelinda Avenue, San Gabriel Boulevard between Maple and California Boulevard, and then Del Mar Boulevard between Pasadena Avenue to the eastern city limit. And what the plan really does, it is identifies 10 corridors citywide that we really want to focus on in making pedestrian enhancements. That doesn't mean that those are the only areas that get these improvements, but this is really a comprehensive approach to looking at an entire corridor that has key destinations and neighborhoods throughout the city. We took the plan to our Transportation Advisory Commission. We received some really great input. We then went to our Municipal Services Committee last month, where we shared with them an update and essentially told them that we got a lot of really great input from our Transportation Advisory Commission, and as part of that meeting, heard from residents about how we could strengthen the pedestrian plan. And so rather than kind of ram it through the system and say, well, we're pretty much done, so let's just finalize it, we thought it prudent to take a moment, take a step back, and try to fill in some of those gaps. But once we get moving again, we'll share kind of where we are and hopefully provide what we think would really be a more comprehensive plan that we can then take from just paper and start implementing it and have more meetings in order to hear from you as to what type of pedestrian improvements you think are appropriate along the corridors that we've identified. With that, I think I will hand it back to the council member. Thank you so much for having us here this evening.
I want to thank you all. And again, how about a big hand for the speakers and everyone that's here today? I want to thank my field rep, Noreen, for organizing the meeting. How about a big hand for the media department for setting up everything? And a big thank you to all the residents, all of you, for being so gracious and asking so many wonderful questions. And good night. And we're going to stay here for one-on-one questions if you have them. Okay? Thank you.